And welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, we'll be going over your climate update. La Nina has ended. The 3-year La Nina has ended. Are we trending towards an El Nino for the fall and winter months of 2023? Then we'll go over your short-term weather forecast, including your upcoming Easter weekend forecast here for 2023. And then we'll update you on the spring forecast going all the way through June 1st and what to expect the rest of spring later on in this video. If you guys are not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you get all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. I cover southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics during tropical weather season, so I definitely appreciate all the new subscribers out there. Also, don't forget to slap that like button down below. The more likes we get, the better this video is here on YouTube, so I definitely appreciate all of the likes and all the new subscribers out there. But let's take a look at the climate update here today. We actually are in ENSO neutral right now. So we're back to neutral conditions. We actually were at neutral all the way back into the middle of March. We just got out of a 3-year La Nina. So definitely a big change over the past couple of months here. And you can see that here with the sea surface temperature anomalies across the equatorial Pacific. We're starting to see warmer temperatures overtaking the cooler waters here. And that means the La Nina is over and we are in the ENSO neutral phase now and actually likely trending towards El Nino. So kind of taking more of the CFS version 2 model. This is kind of the model that we use to look at the longer term, what the climate looks like, but also all the ensemble guidance as well. So all the members that go into this does trend this in towards El Nino for the fall of 2023 and even the winter of 2023. And you do notice some of the members are spiking up here at strong El Nino status as well. So this will be something to keep an eye on as we go through the rest of this year, through the rest of spring and into this upcoming summer to see where this trends in the next few months. But going over here today, it does look like we're going to start to see warmer temperatures taking over much of the middle of the country. We got troughs here on either side of Canada here. You got trough across western Canada and Alaska. You got another trough up here across eastern Canada. But underneath that, we have some ridging building, and that will continue to build through this weekend on Saturday and even Easter Sunday as well. You see all these red anomalies here. That is building heights across North America, and that means warmer temperatures with lots of high pressure moving across portions of Canada and the United States. So looking at the United States, high temperatures this afternoon. We got temperatures back into the 60s across the heart of the country here. Some 80s down here across portions of the southeast ahead of that stationary boundary. Very warm temperatures across Florida, southern Georgia, and Alabama here. Same goes for Saturday as we have those building heights with that ridge across the middle of the country. Those temperatures will spike up into the 60s and 70s on Saturday and on Easter Sunday. Look at this, guys. Very nice 70s out here across much of the Great Plains, the Midwest here, the Ohio Valley, some 60s over here, some 50s across the East Coast. And again, can't complain. Even some areas with that snowpack up here into the upper Midwest in the northern plains, say like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, those areas are in the 40s with melting snow on Easter Sunday. So definitely enjoy it. And you see the jet stream. It is very quiet going into this upcoming weekend here. Going today, we're taking more of the Pacific zonal flow, and usually with that, you have lots of high pressure and lots of sunshine. And that really takes us all the way through this weekend on Easter Sunday. You can see starting to see signs of a trough across the Pacific Northwest as we get towards early next week, but most of the country will be enjoying that Pacific zonal flow in the jet stream with lots of quiet weather and lots of warm spring-like temperatures going through this weekend. But we do have some unsettled weather at times, so we're going to kind of highlight these areas. You see the area up here into the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, perhaps northwestern Nevada here. We're going to be seeing some rain, some snow showers, especially in those higher elevations, and that very pesky stationary boundary down here across the southeast and the southern plains going to be bringing more rainfall through these areas here from Texas, getting up through the Carolinas, parts of Tennessee through today. That will sink farther to the south as we go into Saturday. Tomorrow on the 8th of April, we're going to see more rainfall, steady rains across the Carolinas, Georgia, getting down into Alabama, north northwest Florida and then back toward the New Orleans region. And then on Easter Sunday, look how quiet it is across most of the country. We got some rain up here in toward the Seattle region, Portland, Oregon. Maybe a couple showers from the Twin Cities back down into Lincoln, Nebraska, and then that cold front will be sinking down into central Florida, ending the rain chances from north to south across the southeast on Sunday. So all in all, very decent looking Easter Sunday here across most of the country. I'd say about 90% of the country with dominating high pressure, lots of sunshine, and warmer temperatures. And we're going to kind of take you through these next couple days here. So Friday afternoon, this afternoon, we got the rain and snow up across the Pacific Northwest. Again, on and off, not seeing a total washout in these areas, but we definitely see a lot of rainfall, though, across the Rio Grande Valley into East Texas here near the Houston region, Victoria, Texas. That'll move eastward toward the Jackson region and getting up into the Carolinas this afternoon. Again, with that stationary boundary, we're going to have continued waves of showers and storms across the deep south and the Gulf Coast states through tonight. That will move eastward on Saturday morning. The most widespread rainfall will be across the Carolinas here, Georgia, getting into Alabama, and then down toward portions of Mississippi on Saturday morning. That will be an all-day soaker for you guys on Saturday, unfortunately, for the Carolinas, Georgia, and parts of Alabama. Probably a good day to stay indoors. But as we go into Easter Sunday morning, you see a lot of that rainfall actually moves offshore. So we're going to be seeing some soggy conditions at first, but they will clear out, especially Sunday afternoon and into Sunday night on Easter Sunday. So definitely some decent time to get outdoors in some of these areas once it starts drying up across the southeast, getting into Sunday afternoon. And then our next system with that trough will bring more rain and snow up here to British Columbia, Washington State, and Western Oregon by Sunday night. So, but other than that, not seeing too much in the way of any meaningful weather across the middle of the country this upcoming weekend. But we are seeing lots of heavy rain with these systems. So you see the heavy rain swath here from East Texas across the south and the southeast. And we also see some heavier rain across the Pacific Northwest. And that's where we go to show you some of the precipitation totals here. The total rainfall accumulation from now through Monday, early next week on April 10th, that's where we see the heaviest rain toward the Seattle regions, western Washington State, maybe a couple of inches down here into the Portland area. Generally speaking, a 1 to 3 inch rainfall up here going over the weekend time frame. Even heavier rains farther south here with that stationary boundary and that slow moving cold front. We got 1 to 3, even 4 inches of rain likely here near the Houston area. That goes farther south towards the Victoria, Texas region, up here into Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, seeing around 2 inches of rain. Farther east, the Atlanta metro, getting around 2 inches of rain through Monday. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, up near an inch, inch and a half. And then getting up into the Carolinas, widespread 2 to 4 inches across these areas, across portions of Columbia, South Carolina, the Raleigh region, and getting over there toward the Wilmington, North Carolina region going through Monday. So definitely some soggy times with the wettest conditions expected across the southeast on Saturday. So like I said, that would probably be a day to stay inside, watch some movies, stuff like that on Saturday. Looking at the flooding prospects here, we have a slight risk of flash flooding across portions of south central Mississippi into southeastern Louisiana here from the Jackson, Mississippi region toward New Orleans here and Baton Rouge. We could be talking about maybe some flooding concerns with area rivers there as well. And then moving eastward on Saturday into Easter Sunday, a marginal risk for flash flooding across the Carolinas, central Georgia, southeastern Alabama, and northwest Florida. And then on Easter Sunday into Monday timeframe, the flooding concerns transition up here into the Pacific Northwest across western Washington State and northwestern Oregon during that timeframe. Well, moving forward here toward the middle of April, it does look predominantly warmer across the eastern 2/3 of the country. You see these well above average temperatures here with the brighter or the darker reds. That's where we expect, likely if not expected, to be well above normal, with some below normal temperatures off across the West Coast. This goes all the way through April 16th, and even going through the third week in April, through April 20th, that warm weather across the eastern 2/3 of the country, mainly east of the Rockies, has a lot of staying power, a lot of residence time. So we're going to see a lot of spring-like temperatures across those areas with cooler weather, relatively speaking, across the West Coast with those troughs and the unsettled weather through the middle of April. And you see that here reflected on the 500 millibar height anomaly. You see going into early next week, we have the building ridge across much of North America including southern and southeastern Canada. We have a trough up here just to the south of the Aleutian Islands and a stronger trough here just to the east of Canada up here as well. That will be building as we go toward the middle of next week, but with a caveat here. We got a trough bringing some more unsettled weather to the west coast on Wednesday next week. And we're watching a little bit of a trough trying to develop in a low pressure center just off the Gulf Coast here. And this is very interesting going in towards next week. But before we get to that, look at these temperatures going through the next week time frame. This is Monday on April 10th, widespread 60s and 70s, not only for the southern and central plains, but all the way up here into Montana, western Dakotas here, where we have a lack of snowpack now, getting into portions of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes regions. And look at even Wednesday, we could be on up into the 80s up here in Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and even 70s all the way up into the Twin Cities region. So definitely watch out for some rapid snow melt next week, especially by Wednesday up here across the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. That is for sure. But also looking at the precipitation trends. So going toward next week's time frame to the middle of April, we see active weather across the Great Plains here, especially up there toward the northern plains, and then another active period across Florida and the southeast. Drier conditions across the northeast and the Ohio Valley during that period, and that really remains the same going through the April 20th time frame. Not many changes here through that time frame. A lot of the same areas seeing above average precipitation again across the Great Plains and the southeast, including Florida, and below normal precipitation across the northeast and Ohio Valley through that 20th time frame. So we're watching again that low pressure system down here across the Gulf Coast, and this could be moving over some warmer waters in the Gulf. And if you look at the GEFS ensemble guidance, these are all the ensemble members showing where the low pressure center could be by Wednesday, April 12th. And you see a lot of these are kind of hovering right around the Florida region here. And in fact, the brighter color here suggests that we're going to have it just off the west coast of Florida by Wednesday on the GEFS mean ensemble guidance. And then it moves it over Florida into the Carolinas by Thursday, April 13th. But if we look at the GEPS, another ensemble member here, you see that it's farther south with the track of the low. So it has it over water longer, and it has it gaining a little bit more intensity as it stays over those warmer waters on Thursday, April 13th. So this is something to keep an eye on as we get in towards next week, and I will be doing so. But looking first here at those sea surface temperature anomalies, the Gulf of Mexico and really the western Atlantic is boiling right now. So any low pressure system that can get just hung off the coast here and stay over the waters for a longer period of time could be getting stronger. So we'll continue to watch this going through next week. And I don't think we're going to see a hurricane or anything crazy like that, but definitely at the very least, some very heavy rain. This is going to be a significant rainmaker here for not only the southeast, but for Florida as well, with both the GEFS and the GEPS ensemble guidance here with those rainfall amounts into next week. So that's something we'll keep an eye on. But now let's look ahead at what we could see for the rest of spring. So now this is April 20th through the 27th. This is the CFS version 2 model. This is the climate forecasting systems model for the temperature anomalies. And you can see much warmer across Canada here especially, but eastern 2/3 of the country here, very warm, getting toward the last week or so of April. And also kind of a mixed bag. We got some active weather maybe in the Great Plains, drier across the east and the west here as well. And my late April forecast for temperatures, I think it's going to be pretty warm across most of the eastern 2/3 of the country here, outlined here in the yellow or the orange, and then cooler across the west here with those troughs moving in. I think we're going to have more unsettled weather at times across these areas. That will bring some cooler weather, and you can see that reflected by my late April precipitation forecast from April 20th through the end of April on April 30th. We're going to have 3 areas I'm watching for wet weather. First area with those troughs up here across the Pacific Northwest, and then more of an active Great Plains and Midwest setup here toward the last week in April. Maybe some heavier rainfall here at times from portions of the Twin Cities down toward North Texas, and then a secondary area here as well across the East Coast and toward North Florida. We have to watch out for maybe some tropical development or something like that getting toward the late portion of April as well, with some more low pressure systems. But it is going to be dry across the desert Southwest, so like Phoenix and the Southern California here and Southern Nevada, we're going to see a lot of drier conditions where we usually see the drier conditions in the desert there in into late April. Getting in toward the last couple of days in April and the first few days of May, this goes through May 4th. Again, much of the same warmer temperature anomalies across most of Canada and the eastern two-thirds of the country, with cooler anomalies across the west. And you can see with the precipitation anomalies on the CFS version 2 model is more bullish with the precipitation up here across the northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest, and dries us out across the eastern two-thirds of the country going into the first few days in May. Going into the second week in May, getting towards the second week in May, this is May 4th through the 11th. Again, still much of the same warmer temperature anomalies across most of the eastern two-thirds here, and cooler across the west, with more troughs moving in. A little bit more of a signal of an active northern jet stream, I think, towards the first full week or so of May. And also as we get into the middle of May, May 11th through the 18th, again, it looks like the ridge starts to slide off a little bit farther to the east here toward the east coast, and we have more troughs starting to eat away at the western side of that ridge by the middle of May. And that means we're going to have more active weather across the west and even the southern plains by then, taking over toward the middle of May time frame as well. So here I'm going to break May down here in a couple of parts. This is early May, so from May 1st through the 10th, this is my temperature forecast. It's going to be very warm east of the Rockies, especially across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and much of the southeast. Again, the troughs out west, we're going to see cooler temperature anomalies, I think, here going through the first 10 days here in May. Going through the first 10 days in May here, so from May 1st through the 10th, looks like it's going to be wet. So we're going to have a more active northern stream jet for a time across the Pacific Northwest, the northern plains, and the Midwest. I think it'll be dry underneath that ridge of high pressure as it slides off toward the east coast here. We're going to have a lot of sinking air, probably not a lot of precipitation chances through the first 10 days there in May. But going through the second week and the third week in May, so we're getting toward the May 10th through 16th time frame, it's going to be building. That ridge will be building even stronger, I think. We're going to have hot conditions somewhere across the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, and the southeast. Very warm surrounding that across most of the Midwest here, all the way down through the Great Plains. And then again, cooler across the southwest and especially the west coast here, where we're going to see, again, more troughs moving in with some unsettled weather. And that's where we have the wet conditions during that May 10th through the 16th time frame. That's where we think that we could see some more active rainfall, some flooding rains. But I am watching an area up here across the Midwest, especially the upper Midwest and the western Great Lakes, could be a little bit more soggy at times through that May 10th through the 16th time frame, with a lot of showers and storms, I think, toward that time frame, and then drier again underneath that ridge as it builds across the southeast and even inching up toward the mid-Atlantic there as well, in toward that second and third week in May. And then finally, the second half of May, again, this is late May from the 16th through the 31st. I think the ridge is really going to take off now. I think we're going to have a lot of very warm, if not hot conditions, if not a full-fledged heat wave by the time we get into the last week or so of May. And this is really going to take over much of the country. In fact, everywhere east of the Rockies will likely see a very big heat wave, I think, toward the end of May. That is a trend right now that we're seeing in the long-range model. So that will be something to keep an eye on. And with that said, underneath that ridge, if that does occur, we're going to have very dry conditions underneath that. A lot of sinking air, especially with a strong ridge, if that does occur, is going to be leading to maybe a flash drought potentially up here somewhere across portions of the lower Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And what I mean by flash drought is that a drought that occurs in a very short amount of time with all the dry conditions, especially getting toward the heart of the warm season. And then back here to the west, some wetter conditions with more troughs yet again across the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. And then underneath that, I think we're going to have an active jet stream transitioning here across portions of New Mexico, Texas, much of the Gulf Coast, including Florida and Georgia as well, with wetter conditions during the second half of May in these areas as well. Now moving ahead to my other segment here, the spring severe weather forecast now through April 30th. So this is from today all the way through the end of April. I think there are two areas that I'm really watching for severe weather frequency. The first area by far will be the Great Plains. I think classic Great Plains severe weather setups will be likely through the late April timeframe, and then that could translate eastward into the southeast with maybe another active setup, unfortunately, in a lot of the same areas that have been hit hard this season across Dixie Alley here, getting into Tennessee Valley in the southeast. I think that'll be a secondary area of very active weather through the end of April there. And then going into the first couple of weeks of May here, so May 1st through the 15th, I think down here again, the Great Plains, the Missouri Valley, and the Tennessee Valley, unfortunately, again, a lot of the same areas here again through the first half of May will be active with severe weather, but it is still possible in anywhere in these orange shaded colors. So do know that the severe weather could spike up here in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Mid-Atlantic at times, but it's more frequent in these areas I've highlighted there in red. And as we get toward the second half of May, now this gets a little bit more interesting. You see another color on here. I'll explain that here in a moment, but anywhere in the orange, you could have severe weather possible, especially underneath that ridge if it builds. And if we see that strong ridge build, if everything comes together like I have forecast at the end of May, that ridge builds, as that ridge starts to break down a little bit, you know how these ridge of high pressure likes to break down on the northern and western side of the ridges sometimes. We do have to watch out for the potential for a warm season derecho or a progressive derecho event getting in toward the last leg of May here. So we'll have to watch out across the northern plains, the Midwest, and then the area in purple. I'm really concerned that we could have a track of a derecho potentially through the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and Tennessee Valley. I think there's a pretty decent chance of some type of significant severe weather event, including a derecho toward the second half of May. We'll have to watch there across those areas. Again, this could vary, this could change, but I think right now with the data I'm looking at, these areas in red and purple be on high alert for the potential of a warm season derecho sometime in the second half of May during that time frame. And again, derechos and heat waves go hand in hand. If you have a very strong anchored high pressure system, remember high pressure systems flow clockwise, so you have all the airflow around that here. You can get serial derechos, progressive derechos, or what we call hybrid derechos, which is a hybrid of both serial and progressive, but usually with strong ridges of high pressure with the airflow going clockwise, you get very strong progressive derechos, such as the one that you had in August 10th of 2020 there in Iowa, or even the North American derecho, a classic one as well back in 2012. So that is something we'll watch moving forward through May and even into the warmer seasons into summer as well this upcoming season. Well, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, follow me at hweather420. You guys get additional weather forecast updates. I post on there very frequently, so make sure you follow me on Twitter. Again, it's hweather420. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Friday, everybody, a great Easter weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.